Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Carlton People. Today I've got Cam with me. You're going to meet him, you're going to hear about his story. I'm excited. This is one of the first times we've actually had a proper conversation with our faces looking at each other. Cam, welcome to your episode of Carlton People, mate.
Tez, thanks for having me. Good to be here.
It's a pleasure. We were just talking off air. It's funny, we've kind of met a lot since 2019, but we've never met properly.
No, it's like I was saying, it's been watching from afar, and you connect with all these people on Twitter, and you feel like you know them, but I don't think I've really met anyone that I've been following the last few years, except for Tori and Jazz through the podcast recently. But it's pretty crazy to finally talk to you in person. So
It's going to be a live meeting with everyone watching, mate. How exciting.
love it.
Yeah. Well, let's start how we usually start, and then we'll just see what happens. So, how in the world did you become a Carlton supporter?
No, not by choice. So, parents go for Carlton, which, probably similar to a lot of people. But I didn't really fully get into the footy till I was probably about 10, 11, 12 years old. I was born in 95, so good year for the club.
Yep.
But the interest didn't start peaking until probably around 2005, 2006. Loved Fev, loved Cooter, loved those sort of players. And then I think the obsession came when Chris Judd came across. From then on, I've just been diehard. Love it.
Obsession's a good word for Carlton supporters because we don't just support from afar. We seem to invest everything within ourselves to the club.
And I'm sort of the only one out of my mates. Like, I've got a lot of mates that love footy, but I sort of take that to the next level. I am obsessed with football and the Carlton Footy Club, and it's sometimes a detriment to my mood throughout the week, but I love it. It's awesome. It's such a good thing to be involved with. It's a lot of fun. So
Yeah. Well, you mentioned Fev, you mentioned Juddy and Cooter. So, what's your first ever memory? Like, how far back does your memory go to the Carlton Football Club?
I reckon 2005 Wizard Cup. I remember being in Melbourne. We had a wedding on, and I think the night before was the Wizard Cup final. And I remember watching that game and thinking, oh, geez, we're pretty good. Like, we've just won the Wizard Cup. Like, it's going to be a good year. I couldn't tell you specifics about the game, but that's sort of when I first remember actually watching and actually, knowing what was going on. Because I guess when you're little, you probably watch games, but you're not really sure what you're actually watching. So I was about then. And then one of the first games I really can remember, I was at a mate's house. I think it was maybe 2006. It was a game where Fev kicked maybe 7 goals in the second half against the Bombers. That was the first time I was just like going nuts and thinking, yeah, this is pretty cool.
Yeah, it gets us all. It gets us all. I remember being at Optus Oval when I was young. I don't remember the score. I remember flashes of it. We played St Kilda, and it's just it's that passion in the fan base and on game day as well, which does translate to today when we do play well. Obviously, it's been a bit frustrating, and we'll get on that and we'll touch on that because I'm really keen to see your experience with it. But yeah, there's an energy and an electricity about the way we all support on game day.
Oh, it's awesome. I think there's probably only, you could probably say Collingwood, Richmond, and Essendon are probably the other teams that are in the same mold as us, and it's so cool to be a part of that game day experience with the Carlton Footy Club. Like, it's just the buzz around the crowd. Like, everyone just loves it so much, and we're so lucky as a fan base to have people like yourself that we can indulge in all this stuff, and it's awesome. Like, the buzz around the Carlton Football Club, it's really good when it's good. It's really bad when it's bad, but like, it's just all of it's great. Like, we're lucky to have what we have.
Yeah, no doubt. When you strip it all back, because during the season we're pretty wild. Like it gets pretty full on, and then like the season will end, and you get 2-3 weeks removed, and you miss it straight away. But I always reflect at the end of the year and say, "Gosh, like I really got into it." Like in that round, or after that loss, or after that win, it's like it's like an out of body experience.
It is, and yeah, I've even been reflecting a bit this year. Just some of the comments I probably made earlier in the year around Voss, and seeing what other people have said, and it's so funny. We've had a good 3 weeks, and it all just seems like it was a lifetime ago. That feeling of anger and pain, and now we're flying high, and it's awesome. But
Mm.
I think it's something I've been working on myself as a fan to try and take a step back sometimes, not get too sucked in and too down about it all, because it can change very, very quickly, as we saw last year and as we've seen the last few weeks.
Yeah. Well, we'll touch on that shortly. I still want to go back to like the beginning for you. So you mentioned your family were Carlton supporters. So do you have any, game day traditions with the family? Like a lot of these episodes that I do come from that.
Not really. So I grew up in Horsham, which is about 3.5 hours away from Melbourne.
Yeah.
Um, so going to the footy was pretty rare. Like I didn't get to go watch too many AFL games. I do remember I actually did go to Princes Park back, might have been 2004. I watched a game against North. And then we didn't go a hell of a lot until probably the 2008, 2009 period. And that's when I was really into it. And Mum was actually the one that would take me and my sister a fair bit. We went to the round one game a couple of times in a row, and we'd go to a game sort of sporadically, but there was no tradition. And I was very entrenched in playing junior football back in Horsham, so that obviously makes it a lot harder. But there wasn't really a tradition, I don't think. As soon as I could, as soon as I was able to drive, I would try and get to Melbourne as much as I could, and watch the club. So, and that would be driving all the way up from Horsham and back in one day. We were pretty bad throughout that period. So it shows how much I just love the club. So, but traditions, not really. I just fell in love and wanted to keep going as much as I could.
Yeah. Do you get to most games nowadays?
Yeah, pretty much. Like this year, I've been pretty busy sort of with other stuff, so I've missed a few, but I'll go to as many as I can. I remember sitting there, I think it was 2021, just before the lockdowns sort of started again. I think I went to maybe the first 8 or 9. And then obviously we couldn't go in the second half of the year. And that's because I moved to Geelong in 2020. So obviously couldn't go in 2020, could go to a few in 2021. And then last year I went to, 80% of the games. And this year I've gone to probably half of them so far. So,
Yeah. Talk to me about the club as a whole, because I feel like we have really gone through this transition period as a club. I think both from like an identity standpoint and also a stability standpoint. Like this is a club that traditionally just, when it starts going pear-shaped, it's sack the coach, sack everyone. And it seems like at the time of filming this, stability is the buzzword. So talk to me about how you have seen the way the club has behaved in the past, and what you're noticing about what's happening now.
well, I think, in the past, obviously Carlton have been quick fix, Band-Aid, let's just buy someone, let's get this big name in and let's hope it works. Obviously, back in the, pre-AFL that worked because there wasn't strict, rules on salary caps and sort of soft caps in your department. So it worked. But I think we've just been extremely slow to join the modern age of how you should run a sporting organisation. And I think, that's even up till 2021, as we saw with Teague. And I actually think Teague should have been sacked. But the whole way those scenarios with not only him, but Bolton were handled, didn't feel right. It felt like you said, we were unstable. It just was messy. But I think this year's been really good. And, I'm not going to sit here and say that I wasn't calling for Voss's head after round 10, because I was. I'm very I'm very up and down. Like if we start losing a few games, we're like, nah, sack him, let's get someone else. But that's not my job to be stable. I'm a fan. So I think it's been good to see from board level some more stability this year, even though there was a lot of outside noise from the media. Previously, maybe we would have got sucked into it and made a decision. But I think we're moving in the right direction. We've got someone like Brian Cook at our club now, which I think is a good thing. And I think there has been a definite shift in, providing stability, because for Voss, his journey is only 18 months. He deserves time to work with the group. And yes, we've been through a long rebuild, but Vossi hasn't been there since day one. So I think he needs the time to grow with his group and make it his own, and really show that he can give it success. Will it work? I don't really know, but I think stability is important, because in any sort of organisation, stability is crucial for people to sort of flourish.
Yeah, I find that conversation fascinating, because when you strip it back and you think about it, how can a coach come in, for example, in within, let's just say, 2 years, you've got long-term deals that they've come into the club as a coach with players who are on long-term deals, who may or may not even be preferred players for their game style. And it always seems like we're chasing our own tails, because the new coach will come in, the players might not really fit his system, but we don't have the patience to wait it out for these contracts to finish and then to get the list right. So how do you view this list with this coach, this game style?
I think the list is good. There's definitely some holes. I haven't agreed with some of the free agency moves that we've made. Probably late Silvani. I don't know how good of a list manager he was, but I think our list is good. I think we're sort of handcuffed a little bit at the moment to contracts to Martin, Williams. McGovern's going to get freed up. So I think we haven't done the best we can with free agency. I think our drafting has been not too bad. I think since Austin's come in, it's been a lot better. He hasn't had a hell of a lot of a hand to work with, and I think he's picked up Durden pretty late. Motlop was after pick 20 odd. Cowan looks like he'll be a good player for the future. So I think the list is pretty primed. I think we can keep adding those role players, and hopefully we've actually got some that we weren't aware of. I think we've seen, Fogarty, Cunningham come in, play roles, Boyd, Chincotta. I think that's what we need. Like our top 5 or 6 players are elite. Like I think Walsh, Harry, Charlie, Weeders, like that's and Cripper, like that is a solid top 5 or 6 players. It's all about who you surround them with, and I think because of the drafting we may have done, prior to Nick Austin, I think there was a gap in the guys that were sort of out of that top 6 that weren't really up to the level, and I think it's maybe going to take another couple of years of drafting to try and surround this core with some good role players. But I think for the most part, the list is good to go. And I think we've obviously underperformed this year. It's hard because I think our best football is unreal. Like I think it's top 4 to 6 caliber sort of football. But if I'm going to be realistic, I expect this list should be around the 6 to 8 mark. Anything less, I think, is underperforming. So, but I do think the list is in a real good spot, and I think it's in a position where it's not just a 2 or 3 year challenge. I think that we can grow and we can be, a staple in that top 8 sort of mix for a long time coming.
It's fascinating. This video will stay on the channel for decades and hundreds of years, but in this point right now, in this moment right now, we're coming up to round 18, 2023. Jacob Wiedering's about to play his 150th game. Kind of hit me in the face this morning when I saw it, and I'm like, has it already been 150 games? And we've now really got, memories of these, they were kids, they were teenagers, and now they're, fully fledged adults, coming up, mid-20s. How have you watched the journey of this rebuild, we'll call it, this group? I don't think we need to refer to the previous rebuilds anymore, which I'm actually excited about on a side note.
Yeah, no, it'd be good to put those in the past. But I think so. Back in 2015, that draft, I was only 19 years old, 20 years old myself. So I feel like I've sort of grown up into an adult with this group. And I believed in it so much that let's have this 3 years of pain and they're going to pay it back. And it's going to be the most amazing times that we could all have imagined. And it's crazy, like you say, Weeders is now playing 150. Charlie and Harry have both recently played their hundreds. Like they're now at the stage where they're sort of in the second half of their career almost. And I think it's made it a bit more enjoyable knowing that we've had these guys to watch and be excited to watch their growth. It's sort of, yes, we were losing, but we had, just you wait till Charlie Curnow hits his peak. Oh, just you wait till Weeders is there, or just you wait till Harry's there. And now they're there. I'm just ready for that next step.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about development anymore. We've watched them grow, and now we're seeing the next rung in come in. We've got, Walsh has developed along, and then we've got guys like Cowan and Hollins that have just recently come through, Motlop, Dirds. It's just, I'm ready for it to all come together. I'm sort of sick of this development stage and talking about, how we've watched them grow. I just want to see them do it. I'm ready for them to take the next step. And it is crazy that, they're this far into their career now. It makes me feel sort of old. So
Yeah, we're getting on, mate. We are getting on. I was in my 20s when this all started. So now I'm in the early 30s. So I feel it. So what is not missing? What's the next step? What is it going to take for them to go to the next level? Because I'm with you. The talk about potential and green shoots, and you wait until they've got 5 preseasons under their belt. All of that, like that's done. We're still not there yet. Still got some way to go until we can contend for a flag, I think. What is the next step? What's missing?
I think, and I've put it down to this a lot this year, I think sort of a bit of mental resilience, mental strength, and just sort of maybe more experience in those sort of situations that we found ourselves in late last year where they're close games, they're big games that actually mean a lot. Like this group has been historically losers. They've lost a lot of football. They haven't really played in too many games that have actually meant finals. So I think it's just being involved in those scenarios more, growing from that. I think I don't want to go too early, but I feel like there's been a shift in the last few weeks about sort of the way they're playing. And, maybe it's who we've played, but I feel the football that the group has played in the last 3 weeks is better than I've sort of seen them play. And I feel like there's been some selflessness, which I think has been something that's been missing for a long time. And I think if they can discover that it doesn't matter how well they go individually, it's how they go as a team, and they're completely focused on succeeding as a team and, sacrificing their own games for the betterment of another. And I think, recently we've even seen that with Charlie. Like he's been passing the ball off a lot lately. I think we've seen guys like Silvani put Shepherds off the ball. Like they're just seeming to work better as a team at the moment. And I think that will be a big part of why we're successful. If they can sacrifice their own game and for the betterment of everyone else, I think that'll put us in a good stead to actually do something.
Yeah. I've picked up on something lately as well when it comes to that selflessness. We're a club that loves to focus on the individual. Oh, we've got the best this. Top 5 in the league. We really individualize, and I don't know if the word is overhype. Maybe the word is overhype, but we really get around the individuals. And so that piece around ego and that piece around putting it to the side and, that Messiah complex that not only I think the club might have used to have, but the fans certainly have it. We were starved of success for so long, and we were so bad that you cling on to your individuals because they give you the hope for the future. And it's almost like now we've got to put that away, not stop hyping up individuals, because we're always going to highlight the good players and the great ones. And we want them to break the records and we want them to be all Australians and all of that. But it's funny because you gotta think in that way, and you also now to really become a great team, there has to be no ego, right?
Hmm. Hmm. No, I completely agree. Like myself, I found my favourite player over the last 3 weeks has been Lockie Fogarty.
Yeah,
And it's celebrating those guys that just play those selfless roles. And I know that they would do it internally, and I hope they just get there at the end of the week and say, "Hey guys, look what this guy's done." Like, and it's just these little things. And I think if we can just get more guys in that are in that sort of mold that aren't superstars, because you don't need a team of superstars. You just need a superstar team, and it's a cliche. It's been said that many times, but it's true. Like, it'll never change. You got to have there's heaps of different players make up a great team. And I think, like I was saying before, that's probably why we haven't been as good. Like, we haven't had the right balance. And I think things are starting to click, and I think the players are finally starting to realise, like, they need to play as a team to have success. They can't just be individually brilliant and hope that it gets us to where we want to go.
yeah, yeah. That's a good point. How have you found the? Because you and I live in this interesting time in history where, growing up, we both grew up before iPhone and before social media really took over as our place in society. That's where we hang out for the most part. How have you seen
Mm.
the total, seemingly rapid transformation of the way we consume footy and content?
It's crazy. It's like it's hard to try and remember what it was like previously. Um, I've only really just got on Twitter probably in the last 2 years, and
Hmm.
I feel like since I've done that, like, my football consuming experience has just changed, like, just 100%. It's changed completely, and it's kind of like there's obviously some real negative parts about it, but it's really positive as well. Like, I've sort of connected with a group of people that are, they all love footy, and it's enjoyable to actually talk to them frequently about it, because, like I was sort of saying earlier, compared to my mates, I'm a bit crazy, like, with my sport. Like, they don't sort of, um, you know, take it in as much as me. So I've really enjoyed that aspect. I think it's just kind of hard to even remember what it was before. Like, I remember when I was younger, I used to love getting the Sunday paper, reading through the articles and that, consume all that mainstream media. And I think since I've been watching you, I've become aware that the mainstream media is often trying to paint a narrative. And I think, like I was saying before, us as a Carlton fan base are very lucky to have people like yourself and others that are involved with the channel and do podcasts and that, because they give you the facts, and they're not trying to paint a narrative. So we get to, take in all this information that's actually just information. It's not trying to get a coach sacked. So I think our club is probably, our fans are probably the luckiest fans out of the whole league. Like, I couldn't imagine going for, I don't know, some small team, and you've got to just sit there with your thoughts on a Sunday night because no one else is talking about it. And the only way you're going to get any information is off on the couch, and they spin a bit of crap sometimes. So we're lucky, and I think it's only going to get better. I think. Yeah, like I was saying, there's a lot of negative things about it, but there's also positive. You just sort of got to sift through the crap as much as you can, I think.
It's that's life, isn't it?
Mm.
There's, I guess it depends where you look and what you're drawn to. I found my experience with, the way it's all changed in the landscape. If you're looking for something negative, you'll find it for sure. If you're looking for something positive, you'll find it. I feel like we now enter this next phase of the internet when it comes to consuming sport, and I find myself having to check my behavior on what I'm consuming. And previously it was like, oh my god, there's these platforms and I just want to see everything, whereas now it's like, I'll start scrolling, and if I see it starts getting toxic, I'm like, okay, I need to swipe out, I need to get out of this, I need to take control of my mind again. And I think, I don't know what's coming next from that part and that department, but I think it's something around accountability and ownership for your own algorithm. We've been fed these algorithms based off our own behaviors, and that's like that's pretty harsh. Like your algorithm will only spit out what you are consuming yourself. So
Mm.
yeah, but I'm with you. Like after a loss, there are like Facebook, I'm not there. No,
No,
can't do it.
no way.
Can't do it.
No, it's like anything though. Like our phones, they can control us if you're not aware of it, and
Yeah.
they're always going to show you what they think you want to see. And like you were saying, like if you want to see negative, you're going to see it. Look, I've been I've been guilty in the past of sitting there and just being this sucker for punishment, and I love after a bad loss just reading all this negativity. And I think there's been certain people on Twitter and that have helped change my mindset. And I think something I'm trying to do as a fan the last few months is not let the win loss shape how I feel too much, because at the end of the day, and as hard as it is to think, whatever I do is probably not going to really change any outcome of any match. Obviously, I love it. I want to see us win, but I think I've just gotten to a point where, as much as I can, I'm just going to try and watch it, enjoy it, not let it sort of get me in such a bad mood if we're not going so well. Just sort of ride the wave, and one day it'll all happen. We'll see a flag. I'm just going to try and keep as level-headed as I can until that time. And like obviously, I'm going to have my moments where I'll probably write out this tweet, post it, and 3 seconds later I delete it because I think, oh, that's probably not appropriate. But I think the good thing is though that I'm getting better at going, oh, I probably shouldn't say that. So
Yeah.
I think, yeah, you just got to try. I'm just going to try and keep as level-headed as possible. And that's all I can really do, I think.
Man, that's really powerful to say. You should be acknowledged for that. That's a really powerful thing for you to say, and to sort of take it on yourself and take control of your own experience and just sort of own up to it. And I think there's a piece in that. I mean, with the club in general, there's, the players have needed to take some serious ownership. The admin or the board or the administration, we'll call it, everyone has needed to take ownership, and it's the fans too. We're so passionate. We want it so much. We can almost love it too much. And it's kind of like family members and your brothers and your sisters. Like you'll say something to your family members that are really deeply painful. You love them with all your heart and soul. You'll take a bullet for them, but you'll still say something that's really deep. And I've definitely had my fair share of moments where it's like, oh gosh, okay, And the one thing I think for this year, we lost 6 in a row or 8 of 9, whatever it was. The one thing that helped me was the realization that, like, okay, we may not make finals this year. It may not be this year. I'm going to be watching in round 13, 2024, round 18, 2025. Like, it doesn't stop. Like, it keeps going until we die, or, until they win it. And so
Exactly.
I think once I realized and remember that, it brought me back to a place of, okay, it's an infinite journey, even though we have a finite life.
100%. Like, I think I would get too bogged down in premiership as the end result. And once we do that, it's going to be fine, because I can guarantee if we win a flag and 2 years later we're no good again, like we'll just be on this journey of these emotions again. So I completely agree. It's like this infinite thing, and I'll care this much until I can't breathe. So I'm just trying to enjoy, each week, because I think, the last couple of years of COVID and that, it took so much away from us as fans. Like, we couldn't get there, we couldn't watch. Like, I just try and get there, enjoy. I like to get there pretty early, sit around, just take it all in, take in the atmosphere. And it's just trying to keep level-headed and just be thankful that we can actually be there, and watch it. Whether it's good or bad, it's still really good to just go to the footy. So
yeah. Do you get there super early? You mentioned that. Just that, mate. I sit there
way
like,
too early.
Honestly, if I'm not at the game or the ground an hour before, I get anxiety. Like, I know I'm being ridiculous, but there's a calmness of sitting there on my own, even if I'm going with friends, I'll meet them, like they'll meet me there, and I'll just sit there, and I'm so calm because I know that this is where I want to be. This is my happy place. I don't even want to look at too much, think about too much. I just want to sit there and just smell the air of game day. I don't know. Obsession is a really good word.
I'm
It really is.
I'm the same. I'm pretty much. I'll get there, and I look at my phone and I say, "Oh shit! Marvel said they were going to open the gates at 4:30, not 4:10. Why am I here so early?" like I will get there very early. I like to get there, get a Pepsi Max, sit in my seat, and just chill. I just enjoy it. Like I love going to the footy. Like the footy is pretty much like my weekend outing. Like some people will, I don't know, go do other stuff with their lives, but that's my joy. So I like to get there earlier, and it's not just about those 2 hours. It's about beforehand, sort of just getting the vibe for it all. It's just a whole experience. Like it's not just the 4 quarters.
Yeah. It's powerful. It's powerful stuff. So I want to ask you, I ask everyone this at the end. What year will be the year that we lift the next premiership up? I know we just talked about not worrying about outcome, but we're going to look at the crystal ball. And how do you see it playing out?
Oh man, it's just so hard. Like I feel like things could go bang very fast. Like we could just pop off next year and bang, we're really good. If I'm going to be realistic, I've always had this thing about 2025. I don't know. I just feel like that feels like the right time. Like we're going to have a 30-year-old Cripper, Charlie, and all that will be, I don't know, 27, 28. Walsh will be 25. Like we'll be a very mature group by then. I would hope by that point we will have played a couple of years of finals or at least 1 year for a bit of experience. So I really hope it's that 2025 sort of time because I want to experience a premiership whilst I'm young. I want to go to the pubs in Melbourne when Carlton win a premiership and really enjoy it, like soak it all up. So I'm really hoping it's in the next couple of years, and I'll put it on 2025. I think.
I like it. Well, mate, that was great. I looked up and 30 minutes had gone, and I was like, oh, okay, we're having fun.
No, that was good.
Really appreciate your time. Really appreciate your support. And mate, thank you so much. And this has been your episode of Carlton People.
Awesome. Thanks heaps, mate. Loved it.